Okay guys, we're back to part 2 of the rebuild video. Okay, so I discussed how I found the coil when I got these new Kayfun 3.1 clones in, how the factory installed coil, which most of the Kayfun clones that I've seen, especially the higher quality clones, they don't even have uh, coils installed, and the main reason for that is these are sold to more I guess what you'd call like a higher end user. I don't even think if I was selling these, I would pull the factory coils off. The only people that are supposed to be purchasing these things are vapors that have the correct knowledge to use these things. So these, in my opinion, this particular atomizer shouldn't be sold like a cartomizer or something like that should be ready to go. I mean, first off, most vapors that buy rebuildables, they already have their own way of building things, and they have their own ideas of how they what type of wick they want to use, what type of canthal, and the list goes on. So if I was selling these, I would just take the factory wicks and throw them in the trash. That way you don't run the risk of shipping one out that is grounding out on top of these posts here. But like I said, not only did I find that, but I also found that the positive post was twisted to where the corner of it was making contact with a positive post. So to finish my story, and I know I'm long-winded and I ramble, but hey, just trying to get the information out there to you. Anyway, so I put it back together and tried firing it off, and it didn't work. And I was like, what the hell, right? So I took this apart because I knew it had to be something internal, and you have two pieces here. So the first thing I did was I checked the base. Okay, and this is a real simple thing, right? You just have the base, and then you have a screw, and they're separated. And I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to try and get it up here. I don't have the best video camera in the world, but it is a Sony. But anyway, you have a screw, and you have the actual base, and the only thing that separates them is a little Delrin insulator right there. I don't know if you can see it from that angle, but that insulator is what keeps the screw from touching this base. And if you look at the bottom, when you screw this in, you're getting your ground from your battery on these outside threads, and then you're getting your positive part of your battery from your screw here. So if the screw is touching the base, I mean, you're going to have a direct ground, and your coil's not going to fire, and you run the risk of your batteries exploding and all kinds of nasty stuff. And I mean, that's why in my mods I strictly use protected batteries. I mean, if you're using mechanical mods and you're not using protected batteries, then you're running a really big risk, because you never know when something like that's going to happen, even on a atomizer that you've been using daily for a year, or that you've never had any problems with. So anyway, out of the 3 original Kayfun 3.1 clones that I got in, one of them was actually internally grounded, I guess you'd say, directly shorted right here at the screw and the base on the bottom part. And when I took it apart, what I found was that the Delrin insulator had a hole in it on the side, and I'm going to turn my meter on and just check this one. I know I already checked it, but hey, you know, it never hurts to check it twice, right? And that's how you would check it. You would just put one on the base, one lead on the base, and one lead on the screw. And if it was bad, if that Delrin insert was bad, you'd hear that beep. Okay, and that would tell you that the screw somewhere was touching that base like that. See, but you know, put it on the screw and we don't have that issue. The way I remedied that was, luckily, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Like, I hate to keep saying that, but anyway, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. Luckily, I had some Kanger Pro Tank. These are the factory OEM. This is a harder, stiffer type Delrin. It's still flexible, but you know, compared to the Camry X9 insulators, which are actually like a clear silicone type Delrin insulator, you can see the two separate ones. Now on this Kayfun clone, what I found, and I was sort of surprised by it, because they all three came from the same factory, but it was like they used a mismatched insulators in it. You would see this color type insulator up at the top, on the top part, and then they were using this clear one down on the screw on the base, that type of material. So excuse me, basically the insulation material they're using wasn't very consistent. But what I ended up doing on that screw was I ended up having to use two of these insulators, and basically what I did was, let me find that. I basically pushed the screw out, pushed the insulator out. I took the screw, put it through here, and then pushed it back in the bottom. Okay, and then what I had to do, because these Pro Tank insulators aren't quite long enough to go all the way through. This, if you look at the Pro Tank insulator, it's got a narrow side and a little fat chunky side. Oops. So what I had to do was cut that. Let me get something to point with. I had to get and cut that fat chunky side off. Okay, the little fat lipped side off, and I just pushed it over the screw and then pushed it down to where it would not allow that screw to make contact with the base, and that solved the problem. Now, if I was like I said, if I was building these, or I was selling these, I would probably take them all apart, and I would look around for somebody that sells this type of insulator that was maybe normally made for these, maybe for the actual non-clone atomizer, and I would definitely change those out on each one I sent out, and you know, just to keep my customers happy and to make sure that, you know, nothing was amiss on them. But at the very least, what I would do is I would, you know, pull these off, and I would at least check and see if any of them were going directly to ground, and of course this one's not. Okay, moving right along. Now this one I will disassemble, because I need to sort of show you what I found. Now, like I said, I only found one of the original three to have a bad insulator in the base. The other two were grounding out or going directly shorting out from the positive post here to its base. So I'm going to take this apart and I'm going to show you. Well, at first, if you look in there, you'll see this post right here, and that's what that screw to the bottom base screws into. Okay, and it goes all the way up, and that air hole actually is part of that post, and it is what the positive post is screwed into to hold it here on top of the base. So I am going to take a flat screwdriver, and I'm going to show you what I do here. I take a cheap pair of pliers, and what I do is I'm going to put it to where you can see, hopefully. See how I'm using those pliers to hold not only the positive but also the negative post. I will do that because it holds that positive post in place, and then I'll take my screwdriver and I'll unscrew that post that comes out the bottom of that thing. And once I get it thoroughly unscrewed, I can just take my needle nose and pull it out. Okay, and now you're gonna, this one actually would have probably ended up having problems. Okay, if you look here's the positive post that comes off, and basically what happens, this is where the bottom base screws into, and it goes up into here, and then this sits on top, and then it just screws on there. You see what I'm saying? Alright, and that's how this all goes together. But this looks like a failure. This looks like, I know it wasn't grounded out, but what I see right here is exactly what I found on one of the ones that did fail. And if you look at it real close, I'm going to try and get this in. I don't know if it'll focus. You see that insulator? But I'm trying to look at this and film at the same time, but you see where the shaft gets a little thicker? Okay, that right there is a fail waiting to happen. And the reason why is because, look, if you would have tightened it too much, you see how that insulator will slide down? Okay, and you have that thicker part right here. Well, that's what was grounding out when it was installed up in that thing, right? So I can't tell. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Hold on a second. If you look in here, here's the little Delrin gasket that once you put your little positive post on there that it sits on, right? And I haven't found any of those that were lacking. All of those gaskets were in good shape. But if you look, there's still another gasket in there. Now look, doesn't that look a whole heck of a lot like the Kanger Pro Tank gasket? All right, yeah, we're gonna have to go into several videos on this because there's just too much information. So let me go ahead and close out here, and I'll start another video here in a minute.